Welcome to Society and Culture in the New Republic. This is Melinda Klein. Thomas Jefferson called his election to the presidency the Revolution of 1800, and his supporters believed that this victory would bring a dramatic change in the character of the nation, a retreat from Hamilton's dreams of a powerful, developing nation to a return to an ideal of simple agrarian republic. American society was changing rapidly, making it virtually impossible for the Jeffersonian dream to prevail. The nation's population expanded and diversified. Its cities were growing, and its commercial life was becoming ever more important. The growing national pride and commercial ambition of the United States gradually created another serious conflict with Great Britain, the War of 1812, a war that was finally settled in 1814 following the capture of Napoleon, ending war in Europe. After the Revolution, families were heading west, a pattern that has continued since colonial times. Until the 1790s, farming was not considered a business. Instead, it was thought of as a way of life, providing households with vegetables, bacon, along with fresh eggs and wheat. However, the hunger in cities changed how American farms saw their role. From this time on, any farmer that could produce a surplus took advantage of the urban and foreign market economy. The Industrial Revolution commercialized family farming. Overt political bitterness declined because the Federalists had largely dissolved and were no more attacking the president or being attacked in return. A surge in nationalism swept through the United States after the victory of Andrew Jackson over the British at the Battle of New Orleans. President James Monroe paid little attention to the party in dispensing patronage. After the War of 1812, the Industrial Revolution started in America. President Monroe pushed the passing of the Monroe Doctrine, 1823, advising European powers against attempts to reassert their control over former European colonies in the New World. The Monroe Doctrine boldly asserted the status of the United States as a full-fledged nation, and this granted the administration popular support during a time of increased nationalism. In the Chesapeake Bay area, tobacco by the 1790s had greatly depleted the soil. Many Virginians anxious to do well, like their fathers and grandfathers, headed west and south during territorial expansion. Planters remaining created a shift, switching to grain and livestock, and slowly began hiring out slaves for other tasks such as laborers in nearby towns. The planting of cotton in the United States was practiced mostly in the Carolinas during the colonial period. Two things transformed the cotton industry in the United States during the 1790s. One, the development of a hybrid cotton called short staple cotton that required less work to make a profit. Number two was the invention of the cotton gin by Eli Whitney. By 1808, the English Parliament outlawed the transportation of free Africans from Africa for the purpose of slave labor. While the United States government recognized this British law, it did not end the practice of slavery in the Americas. Society and its ideals was changing regarding slavery. The French Revolution of 1789 set a flame under people who were opposed to slavery. It made some individuals take action. On the French island of Saint Dominic, Toussaint Louverture was one such person who saw slavery as a moral injustice. Toussaint was a slave, 55 years old, had been taught by his master from a young age to read and write, had access to a fine library in his master's home, and was extensively read in Enlightenment ideas and the French Revolution. Obviously, his master found him to be intelligent and promising as a young man. From the 1750s, with the Industrial Revolution in the West, and especially after the American Revolution in the United States, many children grew up knowing that their father would not have anything to give them to start out in life. However, by the 19th century, American fathers reinvented their authority lost in the home during this time to politics and business, where they could still rule with their word. By the 1790s, and with the availability of grains, whiskey became the drink of choice by many of our seafaring men and dock workers in town who experienced life unlike other men, because they couldn't afford families, as one example. Whiskey produced in abundance in the post-revolutionary period was safer than milk or water to drink and so cheap to consume. So whiskey became the American drink of choice. Paralleling this trend was the consumption of Scotch and gin in Britain. From 1797 to the 1830s, the new republic witnessed a revival of religion. But generally, with the rise of commerce, destruction of family unity and piety, along with fewer numbers of churches built, the spread of Christianity fell to itinerant preachers. Out of this movement came anti-slavery discussions in the North. Christians argued among themselves at meetings and in print that slavery was immoral without consideration of how this would negatively affect the struggling Southern economy. To them, it had to end. The Second Great Awakening was a religious revival and return to fundamentalism and prayer, but it did not restore the religion to American society experienced in the past. With Enlightenment ideas of the 18th century coming into the 19th century, that of science and the power of the individual over his or her destiny, the religious theory of predestination lost its hold. It did not attract a society that was becoming more secular. This was a reliance on rational thought and science to explain natural events contrary to that they happen because of sin or God's will. To strengthen U.S. claims to the Pacific and the continued westward expansion, President Jefferson sponsored an exploration. He was interested in this prior to the purchase of the Louisiana Territory, and this was his opportunity. And he was very well aware that there were many things to know, such as what was the source of the Missouri River. Lewis and Clark kept journals of their travels, of the flora and fauna they found. They made detailed maps as well. This was a 28-month trip. In the new republic, thousands of people seized the opportunity to improve their lives. In doing so, they strengthened American values of social equality, individual opportunity, political democracy, and personal autonomy. These values transformed the nation into an expanding market economy.